The Indiana Fever have one advantage over the rest of the WNBA. They have the best core for both now and going forward. Two of those core players, Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark, are under contract heading into a WNBA free agency once the CBA is done, where everybody is going to be available. So having those two locked up on rookie deals is a heck of a head start, especially when you consider Aaliyah Boston looks like she's making even more strides at Unrivaled, and Caitlin Clark should be back on the court healthy, and we know what she can do. Plus, there's the chemistry that the team has with the other players. You know,
the words are out there, echoing through the league. The Indiana Fever, a team widely lauded as having the WNBA's best core, is actually closer to a catastrophic collapse than anyone dares admit. The public narrative of a powerful duo in Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston locked into team-friendly contracts masks a far more precarious reality, one where hidden vulnerabilities threaten to unravel their entire future. This isn't just about a few bad games. It's about deep structural flaws and an unsustainable burden being placed on two young stars. The pressure cooker environment is boiling over, creating an emotional landscape where even the most composed players could reach their breaking point. What happens when the supposed dream team confronts the brutal truth that its foundation is built on quicksand, leaving it exposed and vulnerable to a complete and utter breakdown? The whispers are growing louder, suggesting a profound internal struggle is already underway, pushing everyone to the brink.
The team has a bond. You know, you'll see all this noise on social media a lot of the times, but whenever you hear the players talk about one another, there is a connection there. There is a love there. You know, they wore the MVP Kelsey shirts last year. Caitlin Clark, apparently a big part of putting that together. You know, Caitlin was posting the messages on X, like Kelsey or Kelsey Mitchell, you know, always supporting. Kelsey Mitchell says the other, you know, returns it the other way. Caitlin Clark changed the world. She's a live light in the locker room. I've played that audio over and over again. And now Aaliyah Boston has
The devastating reality of injuries has already taken its toll, with Clark herself sidelined. Echoing the painful experiences of other Indianapolis sports stars like Tyrese Halliburton and Daniel Jones, this isn't just bad luck. It's a terrifying pattern that highlights the fragility of an athletic career and the immense pressure placed on players to perform at 100% when their bodies are screaming for rest. Imagine the frustration, the internal turmoil of a player like Clark eager to dominate, only to be held back by physical limitations. This cycle of injury creates a domino effect, forcing other players to shoulder an even heavier load. It's leading to exhaustion and a heightened risk of further setbacks. The team is already fighting an uphill battle against an unseen enemy, desperately trying to stay healthy enough to even compete, let alone thrive.
You know, returns it the other way. Caitlin Clark changed the world. She's a live light in the locker room. I've played that audio over and over again. And now Aaliyah Boston has followed that up once again with some comments of her own. She, on her post-move show with Candace Parker, was asked who her favorite teammates are, and the answer should come as no surprise.
I'm also going with two. Can you guess who they are?
No.
Caitlin and Kelsey. I love those girls right
I
there.
knew that. I knew that.
You
But
could have. I feel like you could have guessed that.
I knew that, but I knew that.
I feel like you could have.
Adding another layer of chaos is the immense uncertainty surrounding the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement. The league is currently adrift in a sea of unknowns, with no clear rules governing free agency or player contracts. This isn't just administrative red tape. It's a monumental roadblock preventing the Fever from making crucial long-term plans or even understanding their true financial flexibility. How do you build a championship contender when the ground rules keep shifting beneath your feet? This ambiguity creates a climate of anxiety and instability, making it impossible to confidently strategize for the future and leaving the team vulnerable to losing key pieces simply because they can't make concrete offers. The entire free agency period becomes a gamble, and the Fever are betting blind.
So not just Caitlin, not just Kelsey, Caitlin and Kelsey. And look, Kelsey Mitchell, as I've said before, I guess there are some limitations when you talk about the roster construction, to be fair. She is not the biggest guard. Caitlin Clark is a good shot blocker, knows how to read passing lanes, but not a defensive stalwart. So you put them two together, and you could argue there is a better pair or a better fit defensively. But offensively, the most dangerous duo in the league, perhaps in the history of the league. I don't even know if you need to say.
This CBA limbo casts a dark shadow over the future of critical players like Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hull. Mitchell, a top-tier scorer and emotional leader, is a free agent with her fate hanging precariously in the balance. While she has spent her entire career in Indiana and there is a clear bond with the franchise, the league's shifting landscape means nothing is guaranteed. Lexi Hull, a restricted free agent, is a glue player vital to team chemistry and defensive identity, but her return is also contingent on murky contractual waters. The specter of losing these integral components looms large, threatening to dismantle the very core the team is fighting so desperately to protect. Can the Fever truly afford to let even one piece of their hard-fought chemistry slip away?
Fit defensively, but offensively, the most dangerous duo in the league, perhaps in the history of the league. I don't even know if you need to say perhaps there. And, Stephanie White knows what she's doing coaching the team, because she was able to get them within a game of the WNBA finals, despite all those injuries, made them a better defensive team. And Clark was not on the court enough to really get acclimated to that. And then there are the strides that Boston has been taking at Unrivaled, which we've covered. And Kelsey and Aaliyah went at it a little bit at Unrivaled recently.
Beneath the surface of offensive firepower, a critical weakness threatens to undermine the entire operation: defense. While Caitlin Clark is a capable shot blocker and an excellent reader of passing lanes, she has openly admitted that she is not a defensive stalwart. Pair her with Kelsey Mitchell, who, while dynamic offensively, is not the biggest guard and has clear limitations on that end of the floor. A significant vulnerability emerges. This creates a glaring hole that opposing teams will exploit relentlessly. You can have the most dangerous offensive duo in league history, but if you can't stop anyone from scoring, championships remain an elusive dream. This fundamental imbalance is a ticking time bomb, ready to detonate when the stakes are highest.
Which we've covered. And Kelsey and Aaliyah went at it a little bit at Unrivaled recently. And look at this defense from Aaliyah Boston. Who would have thought, she'd be able to keep up with Kelsey Mitchell? That's one of the things that you have to really, really be appreciative of, is how in shape and fleet of foot AB is now. To be able to follow Kelsey around and disrupt the shot like that is not normal. And that could really help. And then, of course, there's what the Fever themselves could do in free agency to add to the team.
The toll of last season's struggles is still visible, particularly in the heroic yet ultimately unsustainable effort from Kelsey Mitchell. Reports indicate she played until the wheels fell off. A stark testament to the team's lack of depth and their over-reliance on a single player. This isn't a badge of honor. It's a warning sign. It reveals a roster stretched to its absolute limits, forced to push its stars beyond what's healthy or sustainable. Such an immense burden not only increases the risk of injury, but also breeds fatigue and resentment. A team that depends so heavily on one player sacrificing her body is a team on the verge of breakdown. Its structural integrity compromised by a desperate need for more support.
So, you're spitballing and speculating about some hypotheticals and some unknown, but you do know right now, whatever the relative result is going to be, it's Clark and Boston under contract on team-friendly deals, which means, and Michaela Timpson, an open checkbook, basically, besides that. Lexi Hull is a restricted free agent, so, she's part of that core as well. The Fever can bring her back, and she's just such a perfect glue player with those other players that I mentioned. It's, almost a core four, if you will. But
the roster's glaring gaps are no secret. The Fever have a long-standing need for a stretch four and an additional defensive wing. These aren't minor adjustments. They are foundational pieces missing from a team aspiring to contend. Without these critical additions, the existing core will continue to be overtaxed and exposed. Imagine a high-performance engine trying to run without essential parts. It will eventually overheat and fail. The inability to address these strategic deficiencies has created a lopsided roster, where offensive brilliance struggles to compensate for defensive shortcomings. This imbalance prevents the team from truly contending, leaving them perpetually a step behind.
The bottom line is, regardless of who they go shopping for, they are starting with a head start because of the core. And it's young. You know, Kelsey is the vet in that crew. It is a young core. There's no reason Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston don't play their entire careers together. And you can build around it. So the Fever are in good position for the next Indiana championship. Nothing is guaranteed, of course. And you can't, you know, we saw what happened with health just a year ago. Have to imagine that the Fever have a healthier season. And obviously fans looking.
Even with Aaliyah Boston's impressive strides at Unrivaled, showcasing incredible defensive prowess and improved conditioning, the question remains, can one player single-handedly patch up an entire team's defensive liabilities? Her newfound ability to keep up with agile players like Kelsey Mitchell and disrupt shots is remarkable. But basketball is a 5-player game. The pressure on Boston to be a defensive anchor, a dominant scorer, and a leader is immense and potentially overwhelming. If the surrounding pieces aren't there to support her, her individual brilliance, no matter how spectacular, may not be enough to elevate the team past its fundamental flaws. This reliance on a single player to solve multiple problems is a recipe for burnout. The dazzling displays at Unrivaled, while thrilling, operate in a completely different environment than the grueling WNBA regular season. The controlled setting and specific matchups of a specialized league don't fully translate to the relentless grind of a professional schedule with constant travel, diverse opponents, and high stakes. Can Boston's newfound intensity and conditioning truly hold up when the entire team structure is under constant systemic strain? The transition from individual showcases to cohesive team defense in a high-pressure, competitive environment is a monumental leap. The danger is that the positive optics of Unrivaled might create a false sense of security, masking the true challenges ahead. The much-touted chemistry within the Fever locker room, often highlighted by players' affectionate comments and gestures like the MVP Kelsey shirts, might be a more fragile bond than it appears. While genuine connections exist, these emotional ties are constantly tested by the brutal realities of professional sports injuries, losing streaks, and intense pressure to perform. A team's love for one another can only go so far when faced with systemic issues, like roster deficiencies and contractual uncertainty. The question isn't whether they care for each other, but whether that bond can withstand the inevitable cracks that form when the team around them struggles to deliver. The MVP Kelsey shirts and Caitlin Clark's social media support for Mitchell, while heartwarming, also carry an unspoken weight. Are these gestures purely organic expressions of camaraderie, or are they subtle attempts to shore up morale and unity in the face of brewing instability? In a league facing unprecedented contractual uncertainty, these public displays become even more critical, almost a plea for retention. They highlight a powerful connection, yes, but also a fragile dependency. It's a testament to the bond, but also a stark reminder of how much they rely on each other, especially when the team as a whole struggles to find its footing. Aaliyah Boston's candid revelation that Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell are her favorite teammates on her post-move show further underscores the powerful bond at the core. "Caitlin and Kelsey, those are my girls," she stated, emphasizing a deep personal connection. This is undeniably positive for team morale. However, this tight-knit core exists within a larger, more uncertain ecosystem. A strong bond between 2 or 3 players, no matter how genuine, cannot singularly overcome significant roster weaknesses, injury woes, or the leg-wide chaos of an uncertain CBA. This emotional strength is a vital asset, but it cannot solve the team's structural problems. The narrative of Clark and Mitchell forming the most dangerous offensive duo in the league perhaps in the league's history, is a powerful one. Their offensive synergy is undeniable, promising a scoring spectacle every night. Yet this high-octane offense is only half the equation. Basketball championships are built on both ends of the floor. If their defensive limitations continue to be exploited, that offensive brilliance becomes a high-speed chase where they're constantly trying to outrun their own weaknesses. This imbalance is a silent threat, ensuring that while they might light up the scoreboard, they could just as easily watch their championship dreams slip away due to poor defense. Even Coach Stephanie White's commendable efforts to transform the Fever into a better defensive team last season were hampered by significant challenges. She guided them to within a game of the WNBA Finals despite a barrage of injuries, a testament to her coaching prowess. However, Clark was not on the court enough to fully acclimate to the defensive schemes. This meant the team's progress on that end was incomplete and lacked the full integration of its future star. The defensive foundation, while improving, still has critical cracks, especially regarding how Clark will fit into and elevate that system once fully healthy and integrated. The reliance on hardship signings last year offers a stark insight into the Fever's precarious depth and the struggles they face simply to field a competitive roster. This isn't a strategy for long-term success. It's a band-aid solution, a sign of a team already stretched thin and patching holes wherever possible. It underscores a fundamental lack of established, reliable talent beyond the core players, revealing how close the team came to completely falling apart under the weight of unforeseen circumstances. This dependence on temporary fixes highlights a deep-seated vulnerability that could easily resurface, pushing the team back into crisis. The romanticized vision of Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston playing their entire careers together. It's a powerful, aspirational dream for the franchise and its fans. It suggests a dynasty in the making, a bedrock upon which future championships will be built. However, this dream is incredibly fragile. It hinges not just on their individual talents and chemistry, but on the team's ability to consistently build a winning roster around them, mitigate injuries, and navigate the unpredictable landscape of league economics and free agency. Without addressing systemic issues, this beautiful dream could easily dissolve into a nightmare of unfulfilled potential and shattered expectations. The promise of Michaela Simpson operating with an open checkbook in free agency sounds like a solution to all their problems, a sign of financial commitment to building a winner. Yet this open checkbook comes with a massive asterisk: the unknown rules of the new CBA. How much money can truly be spent? On whom can it be spent? This uncertainty paralyzes strategic spending, turning a potential advantage into a speculative gamble. Without clarity on player salaries, cap space, and contractual limits, even an open checkbook offers little real power. It becomes a tantalizing illusion, unable to deliver definitive solutions until the league provides concrete guidelines. Lexi Hull, described as a perfect glue player, represents another critical piece of the Fever's fragile foundation that could easily slip away. As a restricted free agent, the team technically has control, but only if they are willing and able to match any offer she receives. In a league with an uncertain CBA and the potential for bidding wars, retaining such a player becomes a high-stakes gamble. Losing a glue player like Hall means not just a roster gap, but a disruption to the chemistry and internal bond the team so desperately relies on. Her potential departure would be a subtle, yet significant unraveling of cohesion. Even the desire of players like Sophie Cunningham to return, while positive for continuity, underscores the underlying issues. These are not marquee signings that fundamentally alter the team's trajectory. The focus remains squarely on the immense pressure placed on the core trio of Clark, Boston, and Mitchelland, the gaping holes around them. The team's future isn't secured by minor returning pieces. It depends on monumental strategic decisions made in a state of chaos. Small victories cannot mask the looming challenges threatening to overwhelm even the most talented core. The Indiana Fever's supposed advantage, their star-studded core, is paradoxically, it's caught in a crucible of unprecedented uncertainty. Injuries, an opaque CBA, defensive limitations, and critical roster gaps have created a volatile environment, an almost impossible situation. The pressure on Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell is reaching a breaking point, forcing them to carry an unsustainable burden. This isn't just a team with potential. It's a team desperately trying to hold itself together while the foundations around it crumble. Foundations around it crumble.